Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chev Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamutiriyet Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. So, this being Purushottam month, so Ashokvariku Prabhu asked me to discuss this chapter 15 of Bhagavad Gita, which is called Purushottam Yoga, the yoga of the Supreme Person. So it's a it's a tradition that we read. Devotees, in fact, read this chapter every day. There are only 20 verses. So sometimes they read verses and the translation, and sometimes if they have time, they read the whole purport also. But it's a wonderful chapter to discuss today. Mohanty Prabhu, I'm going to put you on mute. So, starting with text 1, chapter 15, Bhagavad Gita. Shri Bhagwan Uvacha Urdhvam Moolam Adhashakam Ashvattham Prahuravyayam Chandansi Yasya Paranani Yastam Veda Saved Ved. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, it is said that there is an imperishable banyan tree that has its roots upward and its branches down, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is a knower of the Vedas. After the discussion of the importance of Bhakti Yoga, one may question, what about the Vedas? So Bhakti Yoga was discussed by Krishna in 12th chapter. And then he discussed lots of other philosophical topics in 13th and 14th chapter. But then the question came to the Vedas. What about the Vedas? It is explained in this chapter that the purpose of Vedic study is to understand Krishna. There's no other purpose. Therefore, one who is in Krishna consciousness, who is engaged in devotional service, already knows the Vedas. And the persons who say they know the Veda, but they don't understand Krishna, or they don't serve Krishna, then actually they don't know Vedas. The entanglement of this material world is compared here to a banyan tree. But then question is, why banyan tree? Why not some other tree? So if you go to the picture, now you have both the pictures. If you go to the black and white picture, so it has some text is clear, so you can see it better. The banyan tree, the material world is actually perverted reflection of the spiritual world. Because it is said in the shloka, Urdhvam Moolam Adho Shakha. Urdhvam Moolam means the root is upward and the branches are down. So Prabhupada explains in the purport that kind of tree, it's not available. You don't see the tree with the roots upward and the branches down. But that tree you can see if you go to a waterfront. If there is a upside up tree on the banks of a river or a pond, but you see the reflection in the water of that tree that is upside down. So the reflection, the tree's reflection that is under the water, that you see is roots are up and the branches are down. So the material world is compared to that kind of banyan tree, which is a reflection of the spiritual world. So actually there is nothing here in the material world. It's all reflection. And that too, what kind of reflection? It's a perverted reflection. Means it's not original. Okay, now if you look at this black and white picture, it is said okay, let me zoom on it. So the reflection, the water surface that we can see the real reflection of the original tree to the the upside down tree, the surface of the water is compared to the desires. So that's our desire. That's why we are on this, the lower banyan tree. And the roots are, the real root grows upwards of this banyan tree. And the real root grows to the Brahmaloka. But the beauty of the banyan tree is the real root is there. Now, if you look at, now don't think of this tree is upside down, just think of this tree is upside up. So the root is there, but then when the branches grow, then the new root, from the branches, the new roots come down. And then the tree becomes stronger there, and then it starts growing further and further. And from the new branches, the new roots come down. So if you go to a banyan tree or Vatvriksha, then you can see that. It must be available in your city somewhere nearby. It's not the people tree, it's the banyan tree, Vatvriksha. That is different. So why what happens is, more we are the what happens is, okay, before I get to the roots thing. So the branches, different branches are the different planets. So the root of this tree, it is called Brahmaloka. So the branches close to this tree are the actually the upper planets, and the branches farther away from the root are the lower planets, which earthly planet is one of the lower planets. And the leaves are the Vedic hymns, and the twigs, like the small branches, twigs, they are the sense objects. They're compared to sense objects. And the tips of the branches are the senses. So that by the tips of the branches are everywhere, because the tree is everywhere. And so many senses, so many living entities all over, and they have so many senses, they try to enjoy the senses. And the fruits of this tree are dharma, artha. So we are basically jumping from one branch to another branch to another branch to another branch. Means we are taking one species of life to another species of life to another species of life. Sometimes we are at the bottommost part of the tree. Sometimes we are close to the topmost part. Sometimes we are the heavenly planets. Sometimes we are the hellish planets. Sometimes we are the middle planets. And this is all what we are doing. We are jumping from one branch to another. And then when we are jumping from one branch to another, we forget the real root, and then we develop, the tree develops for new roots. So we keep on jumping. So that's why in one of the purports it is mentioned, we have actually forgotten where the real root was. So new roots have taken place, and more we are getting entangled, jumping from one branch to another, and trying to enjoy the twigs, the sense objects of this tree. So if you look at this black and white picture on the left hand side, it's a living entities involvement, hops from one branch to another, trying to taste the fruit. Up is down and down is up. Can't see how far the tree extends or where it ends. Although living entities are eternal fragmental parts of Krishna, they are struggling with the senses. And the nourishment of this tree, how does this tree get nourished? It's by the three modes of nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. And that is nourishment, and that goes to the different branches, goes to different fruits, and this is what we are trying to enjoy. And then question is, why is it called Ashwath tree, banyan tree? Why it is compared to banyan tree? First of all, the roots are very difficult to find out. What was the original root? That's why when people say, "No, how did I fall down?" Well, where is the original root? That's the question they're asking, and nobody can find that out. And another meaning of Ashwath that is given by one of the acharyas is Shwath means tomorrow. In one sense, it's a Sanskrit word. So Ashwath means no tomorrow. The meaning what? Means for a person who is engaged in spiritual path or spiritual practices, for him there is no tomorrow in this material world. So for him, that's also Ashwat. And for the materialist karmis, that's also Ashwat, because meaning that whatever they're doing, it's all temporary. It's not going to be here tomorrow. So tomorrow they have to start all over again. So it's both ways. Ashwat tree, the banyan tree, or temporary. It says no tomorrow. It's for both materialist and spiritualist both. So now coming back to Prabhupada's purport. The entanglement of this material world is compared here to a banyan tree. For one who is engaged in fruitive activities, there is no end to the banyan tree. He wanders from one branch to another, to another, to another. The tree of this material world has no end, and for one who is attached to this tree, there is no possibility of liberation. The Vedic hymns meant for elevating oneself are called the leaves of this tree. So they are the leaves of this tree, but we don't have time to read what's on the leaves. We are too busy hopping from one branch to another and enjoying the fruits of this tree. The tree's roots grow upward because they begin from where Brahma is located, the topmost planet of this universe. If one can understand this indestructible tree of illusion, then one can get out of it. So we are so much entangled in this tree. We are busy eating the fruits and the twigs, enjoying the twigs, the sense objects. It's difficult to get out. The root of this material existence grows upward. This means that it begins from the total material substance, from the topmost planet of the universe. From there, the whole universe is expanded with so many branches representing the various planetary systems. The fruits represents the results of the living entities' activities, namely religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. So next, Prabhupada writes about this tree can be found beside a reservoir of water. We can see that the trees on the bank reflect upon the water with the branches down and roots up. In other words, the tree of this material world is only a reflection of the real tree of the spiritual world. This reflection of the spiritual world is situated on desire, just as a tree's reflection is situated on water. Desire is the cause of things being situated in this reflected material light. So basically, it's our material desire that keeps this tree healthy, and then we get entangled more and more. One who wants to get out of this material existence must know this tree thoroughly through analytical study. Then he can cut off his relationship with it. So once we know it, we can cut off our relationship. This tree, being the reflection of the real tree, is an exact replica. Everything is there in the spiritual world. The impersonalists take Brahman to be the root of the material tree. And from the root, according to Sankhya philosophy, comes Prakriti, Purusha, then the three gunas, then the five gross elements, then the 10 senses, mind, etc. In this way, they divide up the whole material world into 24 elements. But these are the atheistic Sankhya philosophy. The theistic, the philosophy that Kapil Dev gave, it had 26 elements. So the 24 elements are what are counted here, and then the 25th is the soul, and 26th is the super soul. But people in general, they don't believe in all this, so they just count 24 elements. The material world is a perverted reflection, so the spiritual world must have the same variegatedness. In fact, not just the same, its spiritual world has much more of variety. The Prakriti is the external energy of the Supreme Lord, and Purusha is the Supreme Lord himself, and that is explained in Bhagavad Gita. Since this manifestation is material, it is temporary. A reflection is temporary, for it is sometimes seen and sometimes not seen. But the origin from whence the reflection is reflected is eternal. So the original thing is eternal. This reflection is temporary. The material reflection of the real tree has to be cut off. When it is said that a person knows the Vedas, it is assumed that he knows how to cut off attachment to this material world. If one knows the process, he actually knows the Vedas. One who is attracted by the ritualistic formulas of the Vedas is attracted by the beautiful green leaves of the tree. So he likes to read the Vedic hymns or chant the Vedic hymns, but he doesn't know how to get out of here or how to cut this tree down. So this tree. Or if you want to now, if you want to go to the colored picture of the tree, see, ISKCON devotees have done a good job in painting all these pictures. Very intricate picture. So here it is shown the original that Radha Krishna are there in the spiritual world. So origin is there, and then the tree grows down, and Brahmaji is sitting on the at the root, and all the different demigods are there closer to him on the upper branches. Then you see the liberation. Liberation is towards the top, and then the leaves. It's called Vedic hymns. And then the fruits, different fruits are shown: economic development, religiosity, sense gratification. And the pictures are shown of sense gratification, religiosity, and then the different species like animals are shown. And then the more roots develop because of impious and pious activities. So they develop more and more roots. So more we go down, and we have different kinds of species. Animals are there, then the different species come up. So wonderful painting they have done. But this is for us to understand what this banyan tree look like actually. Text 2. अधश्चोर्ध्वं प्रसृतास्तस्य शाखा गुणप्रवृद्धा विषयप्रबाला अधश्च मूलानि अनुसन्ततानि कर्मानुबन्धीनि मनुष्यलोके. The branches of this tree extend downward and upward, nourished by the three modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of the senses. This tree also has roots going down, and these are bound to the fruitive actions of human society. So more fruitive actions like pious or impious acts we do, and more roots are generated, and then we have more branches, they come up, and then we keep on jumping from one branch to another. So pious activity, we got sweet fruits; impious activities, we got bitter fruits, and we keep on tasting all of them. Because we do both the pious and impious activities, so we taste both the fruits. But we are still in that tree. The description of the banyan tree is further explained here. Its branches spread in all directions. In the lower parts, they are variegated manifestations of living entities: human beings, animals, horses, cows, dogs, cats, etc. These are situated on the lower parts of the branches, whereas on the upper parts are higher forms of living entities, the demigods, Gandharvas, and many other higher species of life. As a tree is nourished by water, so this tree is nourished by the three modes of material nature. Sometimes we find that a tract of land is barren for want of sufficient water, and sometimes a tract is very green. Similarly, where particular modes of material nature are proportionately greater in quantity, the different species of life are manifested accordingly. So more modes of material nature are there, and then the different species of life are there. The twigs of the tree are considered to be the sense objects. By development of the different modes of nature, we develop different senses. And by the senses, we enjoy different varieties of sense objects. So once we are in the material world and then different modes of nature, then we develop different senses to enjoy the different sense objects. And that's how we get entangled. The tips of the branches are the senses, means ears, nose, eyes, etc., which are attached to the enjoyment of different sense objects. The twigs are sound, form, touch, and so on, the sense objects. The subsidiary roots are attachments and aversions, which are byproducts of different varieties of suffering and sense enjoyment. So the aversion also makes us attached. Aversion is a perverted form of attachment, actually. The tendencies towards piety and impiety are considered to develop from these secondary roots, which spread in all directions. The real root is from Brahmaloka, and the other roots are in the human planetary systems. After one enjoys the results of virtuous activities in the upper planetary systems, he comes down to this earth and renews his karma or furtive activities for promotion. So here the tree is explained. Now Krishna will explain how to get out of this tree. न रूपमस्य तथोपलभ्यते नान्तो न चादिर्न सम्प्रतिष्ठा अश्वत्थं मेनं सुविरूढमूल सुविरूढमूलम् असङ्गशस्त्रेण दृढेन चित्वा ततः पदं तत्परिमार्गितव्यं यस्मिन् गता न निवर्तन्ति भूया तमेव चाद्यं पुरुषं प्रपद्ये यतः प्रवृत्तिः प्रसृता पुराणी. The real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, or where its foundation is. But whether we understand it or not, where it began, how did it begin for us, it hardly matters. We are here, that's for sure. We are stuck in this tree. But with determination, one must cut down this strongly rooted tree with the weapon of detachment. So that is the way of getting out. Asanga Shastren Drinen Chitva, with determination. Thereafter, one must seek that place from which, having gone, one never returns, and there surrender to that Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom everything began and from whom everything has extended since time immemorial. So, with the weapon of detachment and with determination, we have to cut down our attachment or our entanglement in this tree. It is now clearly stated that the real form of this banyan tree cannot be understood in the material world. Since the root is upward, the extension of the real tree is at the other end. When entangled with the material expansions of the tree, one cannot see how far the tree extends, nor can one see the beginning of this tree. Yet, one has to find out the cause. Means, I am the son of my father is the son of such a such person. By searching in this way, one comes to Brahma, who is generated by the Garbhodaksha Vishnu. Finally, in this way, when one reaches the Supreme Lord, that is the end of research work. One has to search out the origin of this tree, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, through the association of persons who are in knowledge of that Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then, by understanding, one becomes gradually detached from this false reflection of reality. And by knowledge, one can cut off the connection and actually become situated in the real tree. Means, by understanding that our real relationship is with Krishna, not with anybody here in the material world. Those are our roles and responsibilities, but that's not the purpose of life. Responsibilities one has to carry out nicely, one has to take care of them. But the real purpose of life is to get out of this tree, not get entangled more and more. So that's what we have to see in our life. What are we doing? Our activities, are they entangling us or they are liberating us? But at the same time, we have to do our duties. Nobody says don't do our duties. The word asanga is very important because the attachment of sense enjoyment and lording over the material nature is very strong. Therefore, one must learn detachment by discussion of spiritual science based on authoritative scriptures. And one must hear from persons who are actually in knowledge. And the problem is this: there's so much of philosophy of chapter 15 we are discussing. For you all, it's 8:30 in the morning, and half of you are half sleepy. I know that. So it's very difficult. But just be with me for a little while more, and you can go back to sleep later on. No problem. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the original root from whom everything has emanated. To gain favor of that personality of Godhead, one has only to surrender. And this is a result of performing devotional service by hearing, chanting, etc. He is the cause of the extension of the material world. This all has already been explained by Lord Himself. Aham sarvasya prabhava means He is the origin of everything. So this tree also actually comes from him, that we saw in the colored picture. The Radha Krishna is standing there, and everything, the material world actually comes from him. The tree grows from him. Therefore, to get out of the entanglement of this strong banyan tree of material life, one must surrender to Krishna. As soon as one surrenders unto Krishna, one becomes detached automatically from this material extension. So that is the real way. And then Krishna explains the qualities of a person who's making progress in spiritual life. Nirman moha jitasang dosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kama dvanvaira vimukta sugdukha sangher gachanti yamudha padam avyayam tat. Those who are free from false prestige, illusion, false association, who understand the eternal, who are done with the material lust, who are freed from the dualities of happiness and distress, and who, unbewildered, know how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attain to that eternal kingdom. So, going back to the spiritual world is not that easy that we think of. Look at the qualities that we have to have. Free from false prestige, for no false pride. Actually, whatever pride we have is all false pride. Only pride that we can boast of is I'm not a devotee. I'm trying to be a devotee of Krishna. That's the only matter of pride that we can have. Rest everything is false. Illusion. First illusion is I'm this body. We are not beyond that right now. False association. We love that false association, actually. Who understand the eternal, who are done with the material lust, who are done with the material lust means no more even thought of, even little bitty thought of sense gratification. Who are freed from the dualities of happiness and distress. Very difficult. Kali Yuga is people are mostly in distress. And who unbewildered know how to surrender unto the Supreme Person. Wow, good qualities. I mean, these are just a few qualities. If you go to 12th chapter, 13th chapter, we see more qualities that we have to develop. And Prabhupada, see, I love purpose of Prabhupada. Prabhupada, right? The surrendering process is described here very nicely. Wow. It's very nicely he's explaining. The first qualification is that one should not be deluded by pride. Very simple to get rid of. Because a conditioned soul is puffed up, thinking himself the lord of material nature, it's very difficult for him to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should know by cultivation of real knowledge that he is not lord of material nature. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Lord. But we want to be the controllers. We want to be the enjoyers. When one is free from delusion caused by pride, he can begin the process of surrender. But this pride really kicks in. Why should I do that? That's why, that's why there's one word for all the servants or the devotees of God. It's called kinkar. You must have heard of this word, kinkar. Kinkar means das. Kinkar means he is standing before his master and asking him, what should I do? Kim means what, and kar means do. What should I do? Oh, my master, what else I should do to serve you? But our situation is, we say, kyun kar? Why should I do it? Why? Why? Every time you tell me to do it, why should I do it? Why can't somebody else do it? So that is our position. Instead of kimkar, it's kyunkar. And that's why we don't make progress. One should know when one is free from delusion caused by pride, he can begin the process of surrender. For one who is always expecting some honor in this material world, it's not possible to surrender to the Supreme Person. And we all are expecting some honor one time or the other. We want people to recognize the wonderful services we are doing. We want people to recognize how wonderful classes I give, how wonderful kirtan I can do, how beautiful messages I write, and how nicely I can manage things. This subtle desire for honor is always there. People should recognize me. Or sometimes we are very proud of our humility. We become proud of being humble. Oh, see, Prabhu, how humble I am. You didn't notice that? You are in Maya, that's why you didn't notice that. Pride is due to illusion. For although one comes here, stays for a brief time, and then goes away, he has a foolish notion that he is the Lord of the world. He thus makes all things complicated, and he is always in trouble. The whole world moves under this impression. People are considering the land, this earth, to belong to human society, and they have divided the land under the false impression that they are the proprietors. This land was there before we came, and this land will be there after we leave. But for the time being we are here, we think I'm the proprietor. See, we put nice name on the board. We register the shop in our name, proprietor so and so. What proprietor? We don't even own this body that we are in, and we think we own this land or the properties or whatever. One has to get out of this false notion that human society is the proprietor of this world. When one is freed from such a false notion, he becomes free from all the false associations caused by familial, social, and national affections. And that is why Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to tell to his disciples, do not buy a house, always rent a house. So if you buy the house, you'll become attached to it. You'll think you're the owner. Just rent it. So you're not attached to it at all. But our philosophy is अपना घर तो अपना ही होता है. अपना एक घर तो होना चाहिए. एक घर यहाँ, एक घर वृंदावन में, and एक घर कहीं और, फार्म हाउस भी एक होना चाहिए. Otherwise, how will we live? These faulty associations bind one to this material world. After this stage, one has to develop spiritual knowledge. One has to cultivate knowledge of what is actually his own and what is actually not his own. And when one has an understanding of things as they are, he becomes free from all dual conceptions, such as happiness and distress, pleasure and pain. He becomes full in knowledge. Then it is possible for him to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Actually, there is in Bhagavatam, in 12th canto, whenever we reach 12th canto, there's a beautiful story of Avanti Brahman. And he had everything, and somehow he lost everything. And his own relatives, they beat him up and kicked him out of the house. And then he was living on the streets, and people were coming and going. They were passing urine on him. They were spitting at him. They were kicking him. And then the beautiful prayers of Avanti Brahman, then he realizes it's not that these people are the source of my misery. Actually, it's my mind only, which is the source of my misery. And the beautiful prayers, whenever we get to that canto, and we'll discuss that. So, last verse for today, text 6. Now, Krishna will give some knowledge of that spiritual world where one person has to go. Na tad bhasate suryo na shashanko na pavaka yad gatva na nivartante tad dham bharmam mama. That supreme abode of mine is not illumined by the sun or moon, not by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world. So this is Krishna's guarantee that one yad gatva na nivartante tad dham bharmam. One who reaches that spiritual world after his temporary stay on the tree, banyan tree here, then he never returns back to the material world. So once we can fall down, but after falling down, struggling here, learning our lesson, when we go back, then again we will not come back. And what is that spiritual world? Of course, Krishna only gives little bit hints of about his spiritual world because he could not go in detail. That supreme abode of mine is not illumined by the sun or the moon, nor by fire or electricity. In fact, once one devotee was saying, "Oh, there is no electricity in the spiritual world, so how will I charge my iPhone?" So I'm not going there. Well, we don't need iPhone in spiritual world. The spiritual world, the abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, which is known as Krishna Loka, Golok Vrindavan, is described here. In the spiritual sky, there is no need of sunshine, moonshine, fire, or electricity because all the planets are self luminous. We have only one planet in this universe, the sun, which is self luminous, but all the planets in the spiritual sky are self luminous. So, if they're all self luminous, they're all shining brightly, glowing. So, is there no night in the spiritual world? So, nobody sleeps over there? No, there is night. Actually, the self luminous are there, yes. But whenever it is for the pleasure of Krishna, or if it helps in his pastimes, then the night happens. Because Krishna has to do Ras Leela only in the middle of the night. He cannot do Ras Leela in the daytime. So the night has to be there. Actually, night is the time when he goes and meets the gopis at the banks of Yamuna. So the night has to be there. So whenever Krishna wants, and it is suitable for his pastimes, then the time of the day changes, then the season also changes. Everything according to his desires or his pastimes. The shining effulgence of all those planets called Vaikunthas constitute the shining sky known as the Brahmjyoti. Actually, the effulgence is emanating from the planet of Krishna, Golok Vrindavan. Part of that shining effulgence is covered by the Mahatattva, the material world. Other than this, the major portion of that shining sky is full of spiritual planets, which are called Vaikunthas, chief of which is Golok Vrindavan. The shining effulgence is the Brahmjyoti, and all the spiritual planets are in the Brahmjyoti. And the chief of the spiritual planets is Golok Vrindavan. So all the spiritual planets like Ayodhya, where Lord Ram is, Dwarka, Mathura, Narsingh Loka, Vaman Loka, Varha Loka, all these are spiritual planets. As long as a living entity is in this dark material world, he is in conditional life. But as soon as he reaches the spiritual sky, by cutting through the false, perverted tree of this material world, he becomes liberated. Then there is no chance of his coming back here. In his conditioned life, the living entity considers himself with the Lord of this material world. But in his liberated state, he enters into the spiritual kingdom and becomes an associate of the Supreme Lord. There he enjoys eternal bliss, eternal life, and full knowledge. So that is the spiritual world. That is what scriptures are telling us we can go to. And that is our real home. And that's where we have to go. One should be captivated by this information. He should desire to transfer himself to that eternal world and extricate himself from this false reflection of reality. For one who's too much attached to this material world, it's very difficult to cut that attachment. But if he takes to Krishna consciousness, there is a chance of gradually becoming detached. Again, Prabhupada, look at the Prabhupada's purpose. He says there's a chance of gradually becoming detached. So we're not going to become detached overnight. So we should not even try for that. Let it happen gradually. Let our attachment with Krishna develop gradually, and let our detachment from the material world also develop gradually. And we don't have to show it to anybody. We know it in the heart, how attached or how detached we are. One has to associate himself with devotees, those who are in Krishna consciousness. One should search out a society dedicated to Krishna consciousness and learn how to discharge devotional service. In this way, he can cut off his attachment to the material world. One cannot become detached from the attraction of material world simply by dressing himself in saffron cloth. So simply by dressing himself as a sannyasi, it doesn't mean he is detached. He must become attached to the devotional service of the Lord. Therefore, one should take it very seriously. The devotional service, as described in the 12th chapter, is the only way to get out of this false representation of the real tree. In chapter 14, the contamination of all kinds of processes by material nature is described. Only devotional service is described as purely transcendental. So this is what, and the word Paramam Mama are very important. Actually, every nook and corner is the property of the Supreme Lord. But the spiritual world is Paramam, full of six opulences. So Krishna says, no, Tadham Paramam Mama. That is my dham. Actually, the material world is also belongs to Krishna. Actually, there's a joke that once Akbar asked Birbal that who's greater, me or Krishna? And Birbal being Birbal, he knows how to give the right answer. He said, Maharaj, you are greater than Krishna. Akbar was shocked. He said, Birbal, how can you talk like that for your own Lord or for your own Supreme Lord? Birbal said, well, Maharaj, there is one thing that you can do and Krishna cannot do. So that's why you're greater. Akbar was still shocked. What is it that I can do and he cannot do? Birbal said, well, you can kick somebody out of your kingdom, but Krishna cannot. Because everything belongs to Krishna. Everywhere is his kingdom. Where is somebody going to go? So he said, Maharaj, you are greater than Krishna. So, so everything actually belongs to Krishna. So where are we going to go if he wants to kick us out, even if he desires to kick us out, where is he going to send us to? Everything belongs to him. The whole kingdom is his. So this is what Krishna is, and the spiritual world is the whole spiritual sky is illuminated by the internal potency of the Supreme Lord. That supreme abode can be achieved only by surrender and by no other means. So when we surrender, when we develop all those wonderful qualities mentioned in fifth verse, then we become eligible to slowly, and gradually become eligible to go back home, back to Godhead. So we'll stop here. Ask anybody has any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mata.
Prabhuji, difference between soul and super soul.
Atma and Paramatma.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Anta. That was easy question.
I got little confused for super soul. I'm stuck in soul only. Thank you.
You. Any other question or comment?
Prabhuji, one question. Prabhuji,
Yes.
you said one goes to, Goloka, then he never returns. So, Prabhuji, Prabhupada has come from the spiritual planet to this universe to deliver other souls. So, he came with Krishna's will.
Yeah, he came on a special mission, but it wasn't because of his own karmas. He will come down. That's the difference. So if Krishna sends you back to deliver the people of Gurgaon, you come back then.
Yes, Prabhuji, actually, I wanted someone that who has returned from there and shares his experience. So, and probably I heard read somewhere that Prabhupada sometimes shares the experience of spiritual world.
Yeah. In Mayapur, once he told Bhavanand Maharaj that he told Bhavanand that I was there. Bhavanand Maharaj didn't understand where. Where? What, Prabhupada? No, Prabhupada said, I was there in Golok Vrindavan. Krishna asked me to come down here. And I resisted. He said, Krishna, I don't want to go. Krishna said, no, you have to go. Prabhupada said, no, I again said, no, I don't want to go to the material world. Krishna said, no, you take these books and go. This is what I want. So then Prabhupada came. But in our case, it's completely different. we don't want to go back to the spiritual world. We are fine here. We are happy here. We say, I would rather go to America than to the spiritual world. Anyway, it's a gradual process. Again, we cannot jump there. No, today I'll become 100% Krishna conscious. Of course, it can happen also. It's not an impossible thing. But we should let it grow gradually in us. Then it will be permanent. That's all. Okay. Any other question or comment?
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhu. So I guess everybody is fully awake now and they'll chant more rounds today. So you all have a wonderful day. Enjoy your Sunday and we'll see you tomorrow. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mata. Hare
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dhanvat Pranam.